How old are you, Malachi?
I am 19 years old.
Malachi, they say you've been practicing medicine without a license?
WPBF 25 News has obtained these never-before-seen pictures of that teen being detained.
You do call yourself Dr. Robinson.
Yes, because I do have a PhD. I do, yes. I don't appreciate the way you're portraying this interview to actually be. You will hear from my lawyer.
A 17-year-old walked into a hospital, put on a lab coat, and walked like he had every right to be there. No one stopped him or questioned him. For nearly a month, he stayed inside that hospital, blending in, acting like a doctor, copying how doctors spoke, and somehow it worked. This happened in West Palm Beach, Florida, back in early 2015. When CBS News reported, the teen called himself Dr. Robinson. His real name was Malachi Love-Robinson, and he was only a teenager. Yet he managed to move through St. Mary's Medical Center as if he had been working there for years. He wore a white coat labeled anesthesiology and kept a stethoscope around his neck. Anesthesiology is the medical field responsible for putting patients to sleep during surgery and monitoring them while they are unconscious. But even with all of that, he still looked like a teenager.
WPBF 25 News has obtained these never-before-seen pictures of that teen being detained.
The situation broke after he was found in an exam room with a pregnant patient. A real doctor in the room noticed right away that he had an anesthesiology jacket, but looked way too young. This is why someone finally stepped in. He later admitted he was there, but claimed he was only shadowing doctors. Malachi was removed from the hospital after security got involved. The hospital later said he had falsely presented himself as a physician.
In his car, police found a second lab coat embroidered with his name.
Even though he was caught, Malachi didn't face any legal trouble. His mother told the police he was sick and hadn't been taking his medication. Both the hospital and the police decided not to file any charges. At the moment, it seemed like a small issue, but it was a sign of what he was about to do next. By June, he moved on from hospitals and found a new target. A few months later, Malachi was hired in June 2015 as program director at New Directions Treatment Center, and his job included counseling patients. The paycheck was huge. This dude was probably making between $65,000 to $70,000. It was impressive for a teenager who has never confirmed whether he graduated from high school. He got that position by presenting himself as someone with a PhD in psychology. Malachi also provided documents to support it. He even showed them paperwork that looked legitimate, school records, transcripts, and a diploma that made his claims look believable. Malachi even lied about his age. He told the clinic owner he was actually 28 and that a paperwork mistake made his birth certificate look like he was 18. He claimed he had been living in France for years to explain the confusion, but the owner, Dr. Lisa Cisetti, was there to prove he was a fraud. For several months, he worked inside the facility. He spoke with the patients, participated in clinical meetings, and he gave input on treatment plans. Dr. Robinson was active. It's impressive for a fraud. Some patients later said they felt something was wrong. They couldn't explain it. It was just a gut feeling. He dodged personal questions. His answers didn't go anywhere. These suspicions stayed under the surface for a long time. Without proof, no one said a word. Eventually, an anonymous tip to the Florida Department of Health led to an investigation. Officials sat down with Malachi and asked direct questions about what he was doing. He admitted he was counseling patients and giving advice about treatment decisions. He also said he had never attended medical school and was not a licensed medical doctor, but he still considered himself one. Malachi denied the charges and said he never claimed to be a medical doctor. He pointed to a doctorate from a religious group, an online credential that cost about $30. Since this did not come from medical training, authorities issued a cease and desist order. It made it clear he had no license and had to stop immediately. Instead, it moved forward into something bigger. He decided to stop working for other people and open his own clinic. In early 2016, he opened the New Birth New Life Medical Center in West Palm Beach. Online, he presented himself as Dr. Love and promoted himself as a naturopathic or holistic medical provider. Despite not having a medical license, Bro also built a profile around himself that matched the image, claiming to have multiple degrees, a bachelor's degree, a PhD, and several certificates in different medical and alternative health fields. There were listings online that made him look like a licensed professional, including medical-style profiles connected to his name. The clinic itself allegedly added another layer to the illusion. According to people who later looked into the website, some of the staff images appeared to be stock photos, not real employees connected to the practice. That was never the main charge against him, but it added to the criticism that the clinic was built to look more official than it really was. One of his patients was a woman named Anita Morrison. She was 86 years old and in severe pain when she found the clinic online. Because of what she saw, she thought he was the right person to help her. Malachi visited her home several times and charged her thousands of dollars. He told her she had arthritis even though that didn't match her symptoms. She trusted him anyway, but she only got worse. When the pain became too much, she called him back. This time, Malachi realized he was in over his head. He told her he couldn't help and called for an ambulance. He looked like he was doing the right thing, but he was actually looking for an opportunity. Before Anita left for the hospital, Malachi offered to stay behind to watch her house. It sounded like a nice gesture, but he was actually looking for her checkbook. He started writing checks to himself to pay for his car and credit cards. At first, it looked like he only stole a few $1,000s, but as the investigation went deeper, the true amount came out. He had taken more than $30,000 from her. As this was happening, a reporter started asking questions. The story was getting local attention, and Malachi eventually agreed to do an interview. During those interviews, he presented his own version of events. He spoke calmly and avoided direct answers, explaining his actions in a way that sounded structured but did not clearly address the accusations.
You do call yourself Dr. Robinson.
Yes, because I do have a PhD. I do, yes.
In what?
I have a PhD in holistic and alternative medicine, as well as I have a PhD in science and theology. Sorry, I get nervous when I'm on camera.
When asked about his education, he continued.
I've gone to 2 colleges.
Which one?
I'm not comfortable with disclosing that name.
Did you graduate?
Yes, I did.
How old are you, Malachi?
I am 19 years old.
When he was pressed for specifics, he stepped away from the question instead of addressing it. He also denied responsibility for how he was presented online and claimed that other people created those listings without his involvement.
Anyone that wants to portray me as a bad person, by all means. I haven't broken the law. I haven't seen patients. I haven't performed surgeries or any of this nonsense.
That statement stood in contrast to the evidence investigators were collecting. To confirm what was happening inside, authorities set up a controlled situation. Investigators eventually sent an undercover officer into the clinic posing as a patient to see what Malachi would do. He examined the undercover officer and gave treatment advice, which gave investigators the direct evidence they needed. Officers moved in and arrested him on the spot.
Malachi, they say you've been practicing medicine without a license. What do you have to say? You told me you were not practicing medicine, Malachi.
You will hear from my lawyer. Thank you.
Well, that's not a very good answer because right now you're under arrest. They say you examined a patient today.
You will hear from my lawyer.
Up to that point, there had been warnings and investigations. Now there was direct evidence tied to a specific action. But the arrest should have been the end of it. By this point, the police had plenty of proof, and the public was starting to follow every detail of the case. But being taken into custody didn't stop Malachi. As soon as he was released on bail, he went right back in front of the cameras. He started giving interviews and talking to news stations to try and explain his side of things.
Are you a fraud? Because it seems like everything you're saying to me is either evasive or an outright lie.
I don't appreciate your tone. I don't appreciate the way you're portraying this interview to actually be.
When the questions became direct, he did not answer them. He removed himself instead. He stood up and walked away. Not long after that, he held his own press conference. He presented himself as someone being misunderstood, someone being treated unfairly by the public. He asked for privacy and support.
I am deeply saddened and a little disrespected by some of the things that have come forth. But I will say that my attorneys are working hard. They're working around the clock to make sure that this issue gets resolved in the best way possible. I would just simply ask that you please allow the attorneys to do their job. You respect the privacy, you respect my privacy and my family's privacy. Please allow us to deal with this issue the way any normal family would.
While that was happening in public, the legal side of the case continued to move forward. Charges were filed related to practicing medicine without a license and money taken from Anita Morrison. As investigators looked deeper, more incidents started to surface. There was a case involving a check written for a car down payment. The check was issued even though there were not enough funds to cover it. There was also a larger situation tied to his time at the rehabilitation facility. Money had been taken from an employer's account. Funds were used to cover personal expenses. The total reached tens of thousands of dollars. In September 2016, he was arrested in Virginia after trying to buy a Jaguar. Investigators said he used a woman as a co-signer without permission, and one report said he claimed she was his mother. The dealership became suspicious. Employees noticed inconsistencies in what he was saying. Instead of moving forward, they took a step back and checked his name. What they found connected him to the earlier cases. Law enforcement was contacted. He was arrested at the dealership. Eventually, the legal process caught up with him. He pleaded guilty in Virginia to making a false statement to get credit. A judge sentenced him to 1 year in prison and 9 years suspended. This was not the longest sentence he could have faced. He served about a year before being released and went back to Florida to face even more charges. In early 2018, he pleaded guilty again, this time to multiple charges that included fraud, grand theft, and practicing medicine without a license. As part of that agreement, he received a prison sentence and was ordered to pay restitution to the people affected by his actions. After being released in 2019, he found a new job. This time, it was not in a medical setting. He worked for a shipping brokerage company. The role involved connecting clients with transportation services. It was a normal position, one that did not rely on false credentials. Instead of directing payments to the company, he redirected them to himself. Clients sent money through digital platforms or direct transfers, believing they were paying for services. In reality, the funds went into accounts he controlled. The total reached over $10,000. His employer noticed it, but the response was not immediate legal action. He was given a chance to return the money and correct the situation. As expected, that opportunity was not taken. In earlier cases, Malachi had been able to get out on bond quickly. After the fake doctor arrest, ABC News reported that he was released early the next morning on a $21,000 bail. But the shipping company case kept moving through the legal system. In early 2023, he pleaded guilty to grand theft and organized scheme to defraud. The case was tied to United States of Freight, where investigators said he redirected customer payments to accounts he controlled instead of the company. A judge sentenced him to 28 months in prison, followed by 2 years of probation. So subscribe, or you might end up taking advice from the next doctor who never should have been trusted in the first place.